take action. Call United Healthcare today.
We're back with our political panel talking about the challenges ahead for the president's second term. Democratic strategist Maria Cardona here in Atlanta.
Here with me in Washington, Republican strategist Alex Castellanos and CNN senior political analyst David Gergen. Suzanne.
Let's talk about the president. He won a coalition of Americans. So we're talking about women, blacks, Latinos, gays, young people, middle class, and moderates. For example, winning 71% of the Latino vote nationally, 60% in Florida based on our exit polls. So how did he get these groups? He got these groups together by offering each group something, whether it was Lilly Ledbetter Act for equal pay, same-sex marriage, or his executive order that was like a DREAM Act light. How does he keep this coalition together and eventually govern a broad, wide range of groups with varying interests? I'll begin with you, Maria.
Sure. Well, I think it goes to what Republicans need to understand about what happened last night as well. You know, we're talking about all these cliffs that we are facing as a nation. I think the Republican Party is standing on the cliff of political oblivion if they don't really understand what happened last night with Latinos, with African Americans, with women, with young people. This is the new face of America. America isn't changing. It's already changed. And I think last night proved that. And in terms of what the president needs to do to continue to hold this coalition together, if you look at all of the things that he talked about with the disparate groups, the Lilly Ledbetter, the DREAM Act and immigration, and, you know, the young people with the student loans, what is that all about? It's all about economic security done with fairness. It's all about understanding that you need to treat people humanely, and you need to treat people fairly, and you need to treat people like they're human beings.
Alex, what do you think?
Well, it's hard for me to argue against Maria that the new ascendant coalition is growing, the Democratic Party of young people and Hispanics and single professional women, especially since IR won. So, yeah, I think the reality of it is obvious. But I think, the Republican Party of Jack Kemp and Ronald Reagan was not a no party. It was not an anti-party.
That's right.
It was a party of yes. It was a party of opportunity for everyone. And the difference, I think, Republicans, the Democrats have made the argument, government will give you more, Republicans will give you less government. The Republican argument is, look, we can help you with an economy that's going to give you more, because the government's running out of cash. And we weren't very optimistic and inclusive, about this. We need to be a party that not only has strong hands and is firm on our principles, but has a big heart. And explains that that's open to everybody.
Hey, David, do you think one of the first things a president should offer comprehensive immigration reform?
No, I think he needs to deal with the budget first, but I think immigration ought to be right behind it. And I'm much more optimistic now we're going to have some sort of comprehensive reform in the next couple of years, because he will continue to press it, Democrats will press it, and now Republicans need it. Yeah. And Maria is right that Republicans have to find a way to deal with immigration that's respectful and that listens to the voice of the people. In the exit polls last night, one of the most striking things from voters last night was the overwhelming majority of people wanted to find some path to citizenship for those who are here, and rejected deportation, the policy that the Republicans were putting forward, Mitt Romney was putting forward. And that's very, very important. Politicians do need to respect the voice of the voters. Now, I actually think that President Obama has an opportunity here that he didn't seem to have after the last election, and that is, everybody thought that he would draw upon the youth and others in his new coalition to help him govern. And that didn't work out very well. They weren't able to develop the social media and that sort of thing. The fact that so many came back out last night, that coalition stuck together in such great numbers, and they seem now to be willing to sign up and let's go to work on behalf of the president. That could help him in governing.
Wolf?
He's got some major issues, though, Suzanne, right now that he has to deal with, including his cabinet, because, as you know, he's got a Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, who says she's only going to serve until the end of this first term. He's got a Secretary of the Treasury, Timothy Geithner, who says he's only going to serve until the end of this term. Maria, who do you think is going to be the next Secretary of State?
I don't think I'm going to go down that road, Wolf.
I'll give you two names, and you tell me what you think.
Okay.
John Kerry, who helped the president in the debates, the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. I'm sure he would like to be Secretary of State. And Susan Rice, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. I have no doubt she would like to be Secretary of State. What do you think?
I think both of those, Wolf, would be absolutely spectacular. I think John Kerry did a fabulous job this election, and in terms of really focusing on what the president's agenda has been and would continue to be from a global standpoint. And I think Susan Rice is also a very valuable member of the president's cabinet, and I would love to see her be Secretary of State, as I think a lot of Americans out there would. So I think that he's got some terrific people to choose from. But I also would posit this. In terms of, maybe not for Secretary of State, but in terms of as you see all these cabinet positions being reshuffled, and I might get some hate mail from my Democratic friends about this, but maybe he should think about appointing another Republican. And so that way...
Do you have anybody in mind?
I don't, but that could be something that goes to this, bringing people together.
You did have, and I'll bring Alex and David into this conversation, he did have, Ray LaHood is his Secretary of Transportation. He's a Republican from Illinois. Bob Gates was his Secretary of Defense. He was a Republican. It's probably a pretty good idea, although I'm not necessarily convinced he's going to name a Republican to either be Secretary of the Treasury or Secretary of State.
But look what the president did last night in his speech. He said he was going to call Mitt Romney in the next few weeks and talk about how to move forward together. That was incredibly generous and also incredibly smart politically. If he begins to go that way, last time he's elected president, he immediately moves to the left, health care, lots of spending. If he does what he's maybe started doing last night, it'll help him politically, it'll strengthen him politically, it'll also be tremendously good for the country.
Because as you know, David, who he picks as Secretary of the Treasury to replace Timothy Geithner will have a powerful message to Wall Street, the business community, the international community. He could go bold.
He could go bold. That's not what one has been hearing in Washington, as you well know. We've been hearing more this is going to be a game of musical chairs, and they're going to bring somebody from inside the administration. Jack Lew is prominently mentioned.
The White House Chief of Staff.
White House Chief of Staff
Former
to go
budget
over
director.
the Treasury.
He's a very smart guy.
He's a very smart guy, and he's been involved with budget negotiations for years, as you know. And the theory is that the Treasury job this next 4 years will be less about international than about domestic progress, and Jack Lew was well suited for that. But it was interesting, Wolf, last night, as soon as the president talked about Mitt Romney and calling him up, the social media was abuzz with the idea, what about appointing Mitt Romney as Secretary of Commerce? Wouldn't that be an interesting thing? I think it's probably a non-starter, but it does emphasize he does need a CEO.
Or as the president suggested the other day, maybe creating a new Secretary of Business and consolidating all of those departments into one new department. Lots to dissect, lots to digest, Suzanne.
Wolf, Maria and I were just here speculating on that very thing. What if Mitt Romney was in that cabinet? I mean, he brought in Hillary Clinton, kept her close to him by his side, so you never know. It could be part of the strategy.
That's right. Lincoln did it.
Yeah, absolutely. If you ask the pundits, Florida, it was the state that smashed Mitt Romney's hopes for the White House. But after 7-hour wait lines, thrown out ballots, reports of broken voting machines, there are still huge questions about the final tally there.
Capella University understands rough economic times have led to an increase in clinical depression.